USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veterans' stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another, and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
Yeah, you know, while I was in Pearl Harbor, another guy and I had a little photography shop. So I didn't take all these pictures, but as guys would want their pictures developed, we would do it. And if it was one that I liked, I would keep one for myself, you know. A picture of man, a cook. And the only thing I had was a little box camera. That was a picture of man. I was first loader on the 40 millimeter. Oh, well, that's a squadron patch. Squadron 17, we had a Devil Squadron. Christmas, 1944, they had mass. I took that picture of my old box camera. I was born in the Bronx, and when I was less than 2 years old, my father moved out to Baldwin. I came home real late one night, and my mother heard me coming in and so on, so she spoke up. So I went into the bedroom, and my father was awake too, and I told him I was going to join the Navy. And he said, okay, but let me talk to a guy I know. So I went to see him, and was inducted into the Navy without going to boot camp. So when I went to PT training, I was a first class seaman, and I guess they needed more motorbacks, so they put me in with the motorbacks. Yeah, well, there was two kinds of PT boats that were used by the Navy. There was a Higgins and an Elko. Anyway, I was put in Higgins Squadron. I was assigned to the 230 boat. Finally, when we shoved off, we headed for Miami. So we had to go to Tampa, Florida, and went around the Keys and up to Miami. From there, we had some shakedown. And then we went up the Inland Waterway to do Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, they put 6 of our boats on a tanker. But the tanker went down to Panama Canal. I think one of the things that impressed me most was there was a big tide down there. I remember one time we took a Liberty party. Anyway, when we left him off, of course, the boat was about even with the dock. And when he come back half stewed, but then the boat was about 20 feet down, and he got pretty hurt. Yeah, this was the crew of the 230 boat I was on for a while. That was me up here. On the other side of the canal, there was Toboga Islands, which had been taken over by the Navy. And at that time, they reshuffled crews and so on. And at that time, I was put onto the 227 boat. This was the captain of our boat. This was the exec. I don't think he was more than 22 years old. Yeah. That was down in the engine room. I was the engineer on the boat, and must be in the engine room. Yeah, and that's the only way you went straight down a ladder, you know. We went from there to Long Beach, California, on a freighter, and they picked us off there and put us on the dock in a cradle, you know. We had Liberty there. We were there for about a week or more, and we were headed for the Aleutians. and they issued us all foul weather gear, heavy this and that, and so on. Then they sent us to Hawaii with all this heavy gear. And so we were unloaded in Pearl Harbor, and we were stationed at the Pearl City Yacht Club. It was down the end of Pearl Harbor there. We took some trips over there. We took Kauai, where we took a trip over there, and Waimea Canyon. That was at Waikiki Beach.
Is that you surfing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then surfboards were 12 feet long.
Yeah.
That was the first picture we were allowed to take of the PT boat. Well, we had a radar then, but the radar mast was put down so you couldn't see it. They didn't want anybody to know we had it. We didn't have many of our guns in it. It was only a 20 millimeter here, and a 20 and a 20 up here, but we eventually got a 40 millimeter. They wanted us to name the boats, and this guy here said we should make it that, and he drew the picture, so I don't know, we said go ahead. While we were there, they souped up the engines from 1,300 horsepower each to 1,850 horsepower. We had more armament for our size than anything in the Navy, because we had 4 torpedoes. We had 4 depth charges. On the bow we had a 37 millimeter, a 20 millimeter, a 60 millimeter mortar. Then we had twin 50s in mounts, and then the midtips we had a 20 millimeter. Behind that we had a 40 millimeter and a smoke scene generator. Well, yeah, we used to ride on the torpedoes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we'd ride up on the bow too. Yeah, this is beer time, Most every day they have beer time. Oh, we look forward to it every day. This was our crew. At one time it changed all the time, And this was our cook and the little galley we had on the boat. This time he swiped a nice big steak. My brother-in-law visited me over there, Freddie Corwith. There was another guy I grew up with and palled with, one of the gang, Jack Cheviot. He was in the Marines, and he visited. This was a picture of the commander of our squadron, with the guys piled around him, And I did try to get the names of everyone. We only had 10 boats in the squadron. It was supposed to be 12. They sent 8 of the boats to the Marshall Islands. The 230 boat and the 227 boat didn't go. The next time, of course, it was our turn to get to go first, and that was when we started invading the Philippines. As we were approaching the island, the suicide planes started coming over, just crashing, and knocked two of the LSTs, which carried all the equipment and guys and everything. We had 23 PT boats there. We're all shooting like hell, and the cruiser Nashville got hit by a suicide plane that snuck in and killed a lot of guys and put the damn boat cruiser out of action, so that had to return to Leyte. This one got suicided. The Gainsforth destroyer. It put it out of action, but never sunk. There was an ammunition ship that got hit, And there was absolutely nothing left of it. That's all there was of it. When they made the landing, there was really no opposition. The Japs had taken off, and so the landing went smooth enough except for these suicide planes. And the next day, when we woke up in the morning, we went right into general quarters, and well, the suicide planes came back to finish the job, but during the night, the LSTs that were left had all unloaded on the beach and took off and were gone. There was nobody there except PT boats. 23 of us running around at full speed with these planes coming down diving on us. So mostly looking up instead of where you're going. It's a wonder we didn't run into each other, we shot a lot of them down, a lot of them crashed anyway. For a week or so, it was really lively. Because these guys are coming over every day to suicide their planes. They come over and they strafe first, and then they drop their bombs, and then they suicide. And they were very effective. We secured Mindoro and put up a PT base there. That's where we operated from every night. We didn't only patrol at night. And usually 2 boats at a time. We would go on patrol for certain reasons. Sometimes we would pick up Filipino natives, guerrillas, and drop them off somewhere. And of course, otherwise we're looking for Jap barges, which were resupplying, so we always sink them if we could. Each squadron of PTs took over a native, I guess now I understand they're called nipper huts in the village there, Every so often a couple of guys would be given the day off kind of, and we could wash our clothes and do stuff at this native hut, Some of the natives did come over with a whole big tray of shrimp, cooked for us and so on. I did take a picture one time that had a group of them walking down the road, and I told the guy I wanted to take a picture, so he kind of organized the guys, and I took the picture, I was there for 1 month before we were relieved and sent home. When we were relieved, they just gave us our orders, and the orders said, go home. I had flown from the Philippines to New Guinea in a plane, but that was the first time I was on a plane, as far as I know. I remember the windows had holes in them like this where you could put a gun through and shoot. And I was smoking at that time. I only started because when I was on watch, you get kind of sleepy, so I started smoking a cigarette at night on watch. And I remember being impressed about that. You could hold your hand about this far away and flip the cigarette, and the air should go out the window through that hole. And then we waited, and we got a lift on a troop ship, it was, to Hawaii. Well, yeah, when we reported to Rhode Island at the end of your leave, then you were stationed there for a while, waiting for orders. And at one point, the next orders would become to go back out there, relieve some other guys. But the first thing I did when I got home was get married. And so I had certain points of being married and got discharged. When my wife was in high school, she bought this property. I couldn't think of another place in the world I would rather live than out here. And At the time, the postmaster here, he said, when the first guy comes home from the service, I'm going to offer him my job. And of course, things were political, and really all I had to do was say I was a Democrat. Yeah, I was very lucky. I think of the horror stories you hear about the Marines, of course. They went and took the brunt of it. They maybe sleeping in foxholes in the jungles with snakes or anything crawled around them and so on, you know. When I went to bed, I went in my bunk on the boat. And there was always one guy on watch on deck. You know, so pretty darn easy compared to it.